Hello, everyone. Welcome to Queer Lawyers Speak, hosted by LAGBAC, Chicago's LGBTQ plus bar association. My name is Adam Zebelian. I'm a partner at Schiller, DeCanto, and Fleck, where I practice family law, and I'm also the current president of LAGBAC, Chicago's LGBTQ plus bar association. Today, we are joined by a very special guest, Judge Judith Rice, who I have been strong-arming to appear on the show for multiple months. She's very busy, but she has had a very impressive career. And so the topic of our show today is judicial leadership, because there's no one more appropriate to speak on that topic than Judge Rice. And more impressively, she also is our first guest with a Wikipedia page.
Oh,
and she didn't even
which
know.
I didn't even know about.
That's right. You didn't know you had a Wikipedia
I guess you have to Google yourself sometimes to find out what's out there, huh?
Yeah, exactly. You never know what people could be saying.
Right.
So, Judge Rice, why don't you introduce yourself to the audience?
Thank you, Adam. My name is Judy Rice, and I am a judge in the Circuit Court of Cook County. I work in the domestic violence arena, and currently I'm presiding judge of that courthouse. Our courthouse sits at 555 West Harrison, and we have 14 judges in our courthouse that work only on domestic violence issues. And Adam, I just want to thank you for inviting me. Anything for you, Adam. Adam is we're so impressed with him, his career, working at a major law firm as a partner, and also your presidency of LAGBAC. You've really been a leader of that organization and tried to build bridges with other organizations in the judiciary. So I really appreciate you, Adam.
Thank you so much, Judge, and I have great mentors like you to look up to and learn from. So thank you, Judge. Now, Judge, you said you were the presiding judge of the Domestic Violence Division, or the Domestic Violence Courthouse. What does it mean to be a presiding judge?
Right. So all of our judges, we have over 400 judges in Cook County, and each of them, probably about half of them are elected, and the other half are appointed by their peers as associate judges. And so to manage a courthouse is to manage everything that's happening in that court and the judges that work there. But I always say, I'm a boss that only has carrots, no sticks, because all of our judges are separately elected officials, just as I am. So I view my job as a facilitator, to facilitate getting information to them about the law, changes in the law, to facilitate things that they need in their courtroom, to make that work better. And anything needs that judiciary has in our area, I'm the point person to get that done. Also, I do still serve as a judge. I am the swing judge. So anytime people are out due to illness or vacation time or just a day off, I will fill in their courtroom.
A true leader. When there's a gap in work, you fill it.
Yeah, I'll fill it. I'll go there. And I think one of the unique things about my career is it's been very diverse. I started out as a prosecutor for Cook County. I did that for a few years. I worked in juvenile court and the appellate division. I did some work in narcotics court. And then I went on to the city. I got a job. I was hired as corporation counsel. I only stayed in that role a few months because, I don't know if you recall, but at that time there was a scandal in the courts, Operation Greylord, where many judges and attorneys went to jail for what you would call in Chicago fixing cases. And so the mayor at that time decided to decriminalize a lot of city code violations and parking tickets and have them go to an administrative adjudication court.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so I helped to establish the administrative adjudication court for Chicago. And that court is still operating on Sedgwick Avenue. And so I trained a lot of the hearing officers and managed the hearing officers for years at that time.
Through the Corporation Council?
No, they pulled us out of the Corporation Council and put us in the Department of Revenue. You can imagine why that is, because all of these types of tickets and violations, if there are fines and fees, that created a revenue stream for the city. I think the city had been collecting something like $25 million. This is all the way back in 1989, 1990. We took those collections up to $100 million in fines and fees within 2 years.
Wow.
So as you can imagine, being a part of that team, and we had that bit of success, made enhanced my career a bit, and I was in the Department of Revenue, and at that time, the Revenue Director was promoted to become the Budget Director, and so I got promoted to be the Revenue Director during that time in the early 1990s.
So you were pretty young when that all happened.
Very young, early and mid-30s, and you know, it was a hard time because the city is going through what big cities always go through, what we're still going through, is how are we going to find revenues without increasing property taxes, and how are we going to do things that the citizens can manage. And it's very hard when you're looking at all of these income streams for the city and how to maximize those income streams so that you get revenue for the city, that you don't have to raise property taxes for everyone.
It's an ongoing battle.
Ongoing
no matter
battle.
who's in office.
That's right. No matter who is in office, that is the ongoing battle for major cities, is how to get revenue. And then from that,
By the way, that wasn't on your Wikipedia page.
It wasn't?
No.
Good.
What were you, the director of?
Director of Revenue.
Yeah, that was not in your write-up.
Well, I think there was a dartboard with my picture on it for a while because we were collecting all the money for parking tickets, for taxes from businesses, and as you can imagine, that's kind of a stressful spot. Matter of fact,
unpopular spot with some, yes.
Unpopular. Matter of fact, the city brought back it was called the Denver Boot when we brought it back to boot cars, and if you've ever had that experience, it's not a fun one.
No. I've gotten close, but
Yeah.
I brought myself current before it happened.
Before it happened. So, at any rate, from there, Mayor Daley, Richard M. Daley, the second Mayor Daley, was mayor at the time, and Mayor Daley appointed me as commissioner from that spot. And I served as commissioner, the first woman commissioner of two major infrastructure departments, Department of Water and the Department of Transportation. Department of Water, their responsibility was for keeping the water that comes out of the lake for the city of Chicago clean, and there are plants that operate, the water plant, Jardine Water Plant is the main one, and so I managed a lot of projects in that. One of them was the privatization of the engineering function of the water department. It was a very old department. They were not keeping up with replacing water mains and replacing pumping stations and all their systems. So they wanted a lawyer there to work on the contracts needed to make these improvements to the city. And by the time I left, we were replacing 50 miles of water main each year. And that's important because of lead. All of these old water mains in big cities were lined with lead. And so the more you let them exist, the more that children and people can get poisoned by that. And so the city has got a replacement program for replacing all these old water mains.
And that happened under your tenure?
That happened under my tenure, that beginning of that engineering program. And of course, I have to give the mayor at the time credit for that, because this was a big push, major cities that are trying to do that.
Unfortunately, we still see some cities today that don't have that infrastructure.
Have that.
Or the old infrastructure is still in place.
That's right. I mean, you look at Michigan and that area, Flint, those areas, they had a crisis because those water mains weren't replaced very quickly. So,
well, thank you for that.
Yeah. And so when I left government, I went to the private sector. I went to a bank. I went to BMO Harris Bank, Bank of Montreal, bought Harris Bank before I got there. And so my career was, at that point, was to be community relations, government relations, and I was the Community Reinvestment Act officer for the bank. Many of you may know that banks, if they're taking money from the community, they have to show they're giving back to the community and lending to that community. And I don't know if you heard of redlining, but there was many cases, particularly South and West Side, where African Americans could not get loans to buy homes, even though they had deposits in those banks. So the federal government created a statute called Community Reinvestment Act, that each bank has to work with regulators to show that they're actually lending to the communities that they serve. And so that was my responsibility while I was at Harris Bank.
Oh, wow. That's pretty impressive. And also that was not in your Wikipedia page either.
See?
So I'm learning something.
Yeah, yeah.
My research was not complete.
Yes.
So that's pretty impressive. I did not understand that. What statute is it that was passed?
It's called CRA, Community Reinvestment Act. It's a federal government.
Yeah, I've heard of it, but I didn't understand quite what it was.
Yeah.
So when you have community members, you're a bank in a community, and you're holding community members' money, but yet you're prohibiting
refusing
them.
to lend to them.
Yeah, that's wow.
That was what was happening in the 50s and 60s and somewhat in the 70s in the United States. And it's still difficult for communities that are marginalized to get lending for small business, for property, purchase of property, all those things. And so this is an effort that most banks will go through to try to ensure that the dollars are going out for auto loans, for small business loans, for purchase of homes and things of that nature.
And you were tasked with ensuring compliance with the law.
And I wanted to drive that rating. The banks get ratings A, B, C, D, and I wanted us to be a bank that had an A rating, and our CEO at the time was very supportive of that.
So after the bank, then what?
Then, around 2012 or so, I got an idea that I would like to go back in government, and I'd always had 2014, and I started my race in 2012.
Okay.
And I had the idea that I would like to run for judge, and I'd like to be a judge and serve the community in that way. And at that time, and I really went and looked at the names, there were not a lot of LGBTQ judges, African American women judges, and so I decided I wanted to put together a race to try to enter the race. And the hard thing for me is I came out probably in the 1970s. And
as an openly gay woman.
An openly gay woman. However, at that time, I was not openly gay at work. Because at the time that I came out, if you were LGBTQ+, you could lose a job, you could lose housing, you could lose your children. And we have seen in my lifetime, in the last 40 years, we've seen such an expansion of rights and so many brave people that were out from the beginning, out in every aspect of their life. And so many of those people were my friends. For example, Vernita Gray, Renee Ogletree. These are names that you will hear. They're in the Gay and Lesbian Hall of Fame. Tracy Baim. These were all my friends, but I did not have the courage at that time to fully come out. I was active in the gay and lesbian community. I had a life partner. I'm now married to my life partner. We've been married. We've been together 21 years, and we were one of the first when they had civil unions to come together in a civil union, and then that was converted to a marriage when the laws changed. There were when I first came out in the 70s, when you go to the Pride Parade, there was only a few thousand people there. And they had a rally in Lincoln Park that we all walked to. Very different than what we see today. And so to go to the Pride Parade today and see millions of people, young people, allies, supporters, and people being able to be who they are and not afraid.
Yeah.
And one of the things, I had come out at work by the time I got to Harris Bank, And banking is one of the more conservative industries, as you know, the law is as well. And so I was a little nervous about it, but my boss at the time came to me and said, I want you to lead up Lions Pride, which was the LGBTQ resource group for the bank. And so I felt fully supported, and it was probably one of the best things of my life, because I realized that I was not taking my whole self everywhere I was going, because people didn't know that I was married to my wife and all of those things. And it was the first time in my life that I could take my whole self to work and be comfortable and know that people supported me based on what I had to bring to the table.
Yeah, so you've seen the transition from being ostracized,
Yes,
all the way to full acceptance.
that's correct.
And you've lived through it.
Lived through it.
As an adult and in a committed relationship, you've experienced it, the whole history of it.
Yeah, I mean, the hard part for me was going through the AIDS crisis when we did. I lost so many friends during that crisis. And to see people having, to stand up for their rights for even health care, basic health care. There's a group of us, and some of us are still judges, that went through this period of time. And it is, I can't say how many brave people there were to bring us here.
Including you.
Yeah.
Including you.
Yeah, but as I said, if I don't have regrets in life, but if anything I could change, it would have been to come out at work earlier in my career, and to really fully understand and appreciate what that offers you. Even today, I looked at all of the LGBTQ judges that we've had. Our first was Tom Chiola in 1994. So this
that's
is just
relatively not that long ago.
It's not that long ago, 25,
Right.
30 years ago. And today, we have 35 LGBTQ judges. And each of them are out, and they are active in bar associations. LAGBAC, they're active, and Tom Chiola and Sebastian Patty, who was my boss for a while, created an organization called the AIJ, the Alliance of Illinois Judges. And that organization's mission is to get more LGBTQ attorneys interested in becoming judges and to the judiciary and supporting them once they get there. And so each of these 35 judges are members of the AIJ. Our membership is probably close to 150 people, because not only the judges that are gay and lesbian, but all of the other judges that are allies, that come to our events, that come to Pride Day to show their support. Let's say, I support you as a colleague, as a friend, and I never thought that I would see this in my lifetime, Adam.
Yeah, it is. Me neither,
Yeah.
quite frankly. And I went to law school, started in 2006, graduated 2009. My first summer internship, after my 1L year, not that I think it would have been a problem. I adore the people I worked with after that year, but I wasn't out.
Yeah.
I chose to stay in the closet. Not because, again, I thought that there would be any repercussions from my employer, but the time was just different.
Right.
And I was still figuring out how I was going to be back in 2007, how I was going to present as an openly gay man in every other facet of my life. How was I going to present professionally?
Correct.
I had no choice when I came to the state's attorney's office, because I was recruited through Lavender Law, the
Right.
LGBTQ plus national legal conference. But that first year, even back just 2007, that's not that long
not
ago.
that long.
From then and now, completely different.
Yes.
How people view us as a community, how we're accepted, even in our rights.
That's right.
So it's really quite fascinating. So sometimes not sometimes. Oftentimes when we have guests on the show, we talk about the coming out story. Do you
Yes.
have a coming out story?
Yes.
Would you share it?
Yeah, sure. I mean, when I was first coming out in 1976, I lived on the south side of Chicago, an African-American young woman who all grew up on the south side of Chicago, and I really did not know any people like me. I learned later on that there were a lot of people I knew who were like me, but I didn't know it at the time. And I felt very isolated. I felt very depressed. And one of the things that happened to me is in college, I actually fell for one of my college roommates. And so I realized at that time who I was. And so I started looking for where do people who are LGBTQ plus go? And I learned through some people that it was on the north side of Chicago. Go to Halsted Street, go to Broadway. And so I spent time as a very young person just walking up and down Broadway and Halsted Street, trying to see the people I could see and see people I could talk to and meet.
People like yourself.
Like myself. And then at that time, one of the best ways to meet people, this was before we had online dating and all that stuff, was in a bar. And so I found out the old-fashioned way. So I found out where the bars were, and I went there. And I eventually started to meet people, men and women, who were like me, and build my own community. And I realized that I had to move. I had to move in the area that I wanted to live in. And there was an organization that was the precursor of the organization that we have now that used to be called Gay Horizons.
Oh, I've heard of it.
Yeah, and that was a support group for people like me, and I went there and started meeting people and made lots of lifelong friends.
Was
from
that
Gay
the
Horizons.
precursor to Center on Halsted?
Center on Halsted.
Okay.
It was the precursor to Center on Halsted, which is one of the reasons why I remain faithful to the center and a donor to them, because I know the work that they're doing for younger people in the community that may have suffered rejection from their families. That may be they gay or transgender. They don't have the support of their families and friends that they know, so they need a support base to go to so that they can become their whole self and the person that they want to be.
And unfortunately, it still happens way too often.
Too often.
Even in the progressive bubble that is Chicago, there are many, the statistics on homeless youth and the amount of them identifying as LGBTQ plus is astronomical. I think it's the majority of homeless youth are actually LGBTQ plus.
Yes, or transgender, because the violence that happens to transgender individuals, whether they are trans from male to female, female to male, is staggering. And so places like the Center on Halsted provide many services and a safe haven for people who are going through that.
Yeah, it's an invaluable part of the community.
Right.
It's important that people continue to support it because the work is still ongoing.
Still ongoing. And as we look at many of us now are starting to age, and what support are there for LGBTQ plus seniors, even housing? Mm-hmm. And the center has created some housing, and we need to expand that. When people are going to be retirement age, where are they going to go? Are they going to go into retirement communities where they feel comfortable, where they can talk about their husband or their wife, and that person is the same sex as them? And so this is something that we have to look forward to. What are the services we're going to offer communities, young people, people who are in the middle of their life, and people who may be at the tail end of their life?
Right. And I know organizations around the city are looking at the issue of the aging LGBTQ plus population and the unique challenges that they face, such as some of them having lived with HIV since the 80s.
That's correct.
And how that it has its own set of issues that are separate from the general population, typically.
Yeah, they're going to have healthcare issues that are separate. And I have several of those friends too. I have friends that I said goodbye to on the phone that are still here through medical technology and various changes, advancements we have had with AIDS, that they're still here, and it's wonderful, but they will have a unique set of health issues that everyone else may not have.
So, Judge, we were talking about how important it is that the judiciary is made up of individuals that understand the community where they sit.
Yes.
And can you tell the audience what we were talking about and why that's so important?
Yes, it's critical because, the community needs to see people that look like the community on the bench. It feels, when you can go into a courthouse and you can see judges that are women, that are Latina, Latinx, that are African American, that are gay and lesbian, you know that those people have lived in your community. And that's important because the law is the law. The law is a set of statements on the book. But you as a judge have to take the facts of that person's life to apply them to the law. And attorneys help to do that. I mean, you're a family law attorney, and you know that's how you spend your day, is this is what my family looks like, this is what they need. How does that fit within the legal system that we can get them where they need to be? And if you're a person that has not lived in certain areas of the community or understand certain parts of the community, you can make rulings that are really not in the best interest of people and of those families. So I think it's critically important that we have judges from the LGBT community as well as many other communities.
And, you know, some courthouses see very specific types of cases, but other courthouses such as yours, domestic violence courthouse, it's all from all walks of life walk through those doors.
And domestic violence is something that touches every background, whether you're wealthy, whether you're poor, you can be a victim or survivor of domestic violence. Domestic violence exists in LGBTQ plus relationships. We think just because we're in a relationship with the same sex person that we won't have domestic violence. That is just a fallacy. And we have many families that come to us that are not the, what you say, traditional family that people say. They're traditional families to me because I know that they're raising their children in the same way that, you know, maybe many people are. But unless you have a judiciary that is familiar with all of these different walks of life, you may have people that are not sensitive to how they rule and what they're going to ask of individuals.
Well, Judge, thank you so much for coming on this show. Thank you for the leadership you've shown throughout your entire career to our community and now on the bench. I can't thank you enough, and I look forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you, Adam. You too.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Take care.